once they give you the card, your own is to ensure that everything that is in it, which is why you're asking the person that is bringing the card, which camera is recording this? What position is it recording? Is it recording CU or... So you go to your folder and copy it and put it there. They should be seeing the 3 file inside the 7. It is important also you triple, multiple back your footage. Me, I do 3. So which means that when I put something in one hard drive, I then copy it into the 2 different hard drives. Like I said, remember, all the money that you spend on that production, where is it ending? In that drive. So you must back up. Always back up. So what's the importance of post-production? Without post-production process, you simply, all you have is just your raw video. You must painstakingly understand the event and then create a story. The first rule I tell anybody that wants to work with me as an editor is that you must be able to watch all the footages. If you can't watch all the footages, then you're not an editor. Because that is the first point of what? Edit for you. Because it is there you will know where the footages are. You will know the ones that are good and the ones that are what? Bad. You do your separation immediately. So even when I was shooting wedding for 4 hours, 8 hours, I watch everything. Documentary, we watch everything. And I shot that thing in 3 months. So imagine the number of footage that the person have to go back to watch again. Because we are trying to do what? Tell you what? A different story. What does an editor do? The editor puts together cuts, pictures, rushes, as they come in from the set. Now, films tend not to be shot in order in which the story unfolds. So editors might be working on scenes from the end of the film before the beginning. You understand what it means? We don't shoot the way it is written. That's what it means. So it doesn't mean that because they say this is scene 1, act 1, that was what is going to be shot first. Everything is based on the production schedule and what? And the time. In pre-productions, editor will always work closely with the what? The director. Why? To decide how to make the most of what? The scripts. During post-production, the editor and the director do what? Work closely to refine the assembly edit into a director's cut, which must then be approved by the producer until they achieve what we call picture lock. Picture lock is called as what? Final cut. Because the director basically is the creative head of the entire production. So literally he has the final say to say, okay, at this point, my vision has been properly what? Captured. So we can release it. An editor is expected to be good in what? Storytelling, visual awareness, using of editing software, communication, and attention to what? Detail. I've trained, I told you I've trained a lot of people. And I found out that there are 2 types of editors that you come across. 1, we call them the story editor. 2, you call them the teaser editors. Where you start working, immediately you get it right as an editor. Where you start working is very important. And the type of job you do consistently is also very important. Once you agree and you become perfect and you start editing, the work you do frequently the most determine whether you will be a story editor or you'll be what? A teaser editor. If you look at Hollywood, you will see it very well. Most times, the people that cut those trailers that you watch, those teasers, 2-3 minutes, they don't work on the entire film. The editors that work on the entire film were different. A story editor, he can sit down like that for 1 month. He's not moved because he's basically arranging it, 1 minute, 2 minutes. He knows he's going to 1 hour, so he's not rushing. A chiller editor knows that this thing is 3 days. Once he passed 3 days where he's sitting down, you will see he will press phone, he will walk around, he will go and greet his friend, he will come back, because he knows that he doesn't need more than 3 days. He already knows what he needs. That's how you meet anybody, any editor that tells you, don't worry, it will be ready in 3 days. No story editor will ever tell you to edit in 3 days. It's 2 months to, for 3 weeks. You just be adding time, adding time, because he's looking at the cumbersome of the fact that I will sit down, I will watch the entire footage. The teaser video is basically for marketing. So don't blame us if you don't see anything in the movie. After that is what? Campaign image or poster is very important too. There are, however, trailer editors these days. Allow them to take over if it is in the budget. They have seen it all before when it comes to extracting the most exciting and what? Memorable scene from a movie. Assistant editors, they take charge of the day-to-day running of the cutting room, which means they leave the editor to be able to concentrate on what? Editing the film. Their role is just to ensure that every other thing that the editor needs is available. So you can see that we have what? Second assistant editor, third assistant editor, and editing assistant. This is on a big budget. It's dependent on the size of the what? Production. Then you have the supervising sound editor. They are responsible for all the sound in post-production. They are the picture editor's main point of contact for everything that concerns what? Production soundtrack. There's what we call Foley artists. That's another part of sound design. All the sound, the only thing that they record on set in film is the dialogue, just your talk. Every other thing that you can hear, whether it is breathing, whether it is the sword, everything was recreated in studio. Normally, on every production, you are supposed to create your own what? Your own sound. The idea is that nobody has done the story you are trying to do. So therefore, the sound should not be available. Let me play this video for you people. You can see those two women, they are basically the artists. Their own is to think in their mind what will create the perfect sound. Sound is two elements rubbing on each other. The way the sound of me when I'm walking is different from the way it will sound when I'm what? Sitting. To the point that even if I'm going to sit down, Foley artists believe that I make sound. Because my butt is making contact with something else. So as long as there is contact, there must be a sound. And everything has its own unique sound. So we call this prop house. In their studio, there's a prop house. And everything that you throw away and say it has been, you understand? It has finished its purpose. That's when they go and pick it up and say, the Lord has need for it. The sound scoring and obtaining music are now those, moods, based on the moods that particular scene is. Romantic should be romantic. You can't be romantic and you are dancing skelewu. You understand? It's not the same thing, it's different. When you are in party, you are in party. We should know that is party. That's why you see that every different scene, based on what is happening in that scene, there is supposed to be a sound that is scored just for that purpose. That's why my sound cannot work for your movie, except we are doing the same movie. When you are editing as an editor, the picture really is your major focus. But you need the sound for you to understand that what you are saying at that particular point that is happening is really what is happening. Or else, the picture will show something else, the sound will say something else. You can't have a good picture and a bad sound and say you have a good movie. It's a lie. The picture must be good, the sound must be good. It is 50-50. That is why it is called audio visual. The first thing is the workflow, is what? Picture editing. Basically putting everything, that's the work of the first assistant editor. You just come, you put everything together. The next thing is what to create the sound. Which is why I said most time what we do here is not editing, it's cut and join. Because picture editing, that first stage, is when you actually did your what? Your first cut. We call it the rough cut. Your rough cut is basically, this is what they said happened at this place, and this is what is what? Ending. Now, let's give it life. So we now leave the picture, and now do what? Go to what? Sound. That's what we now start sound. You go to what? Creating the sound. Here, all the instruments, everything is digital. You're basically creating the sound. You go from there to the Foley artist. It's actually in that same stage of creating the sound. Once you are done with that, the next thing you are creating what? music. The sound is basically those effects I mentioned in the Foley. Then you now go to creating the what? The music. Because it's basically an embellishment of everything. So there is sound, there's music. After you create the music, you go into what? Mixing it. Why are you mixing it? So that everything can fit into where you want it to fit. So it is not scattering. Here we call it mastering the sound. So you want to master it. You want to make sure that he said slap. And at the point where he says slap, the emotion they wrote in the script is that she's supposed to cry. Or she's not crying, or he is not crying, he's supposed to hug her. And if you watch your film very well, you see that when that action happens, the sound does what? Changes. So as to tell you that the mood has what? Switched. That's what happened at stage 4. Stage 5, if it is a film that needs effect, you now go in and design. You design and see the effect. They shot the acting, they now carried the acting into what? Into the CGI or to the visual effect. They now created it. But the actors need to act with a model. Now, what they model is what we call green screen. So they will model it with a green, like a pillow or something. If you go on Google, just type for green screen model. So they will model it based on the actual size of where they want it to fit in. In CGI, anything that is green and blue can be totally erased as empty. You don't see anything. So the person can wear blue, can wear green. Also, there are scenes that are basically created on CGI only. CGI is computer generated images or computer graphics image, which means that all that particular thing that you are looking at was basically done on the what? System. Nothing was basically shot and was released like that. The person that is flying, there is a rope holding them. Go and watch behind the scene. It's basically CGI. So that's the next stage. But in building this from the script already, they've already done that this is what's going to happen. So the script and the director, the writer and the director, they will now basically sit down and say, what are we going to do? How are we going to achieve this? The editor is aware. The actors are aware. Now you understand what I'm saying, right? It's a teamwork, but each and every one understand their role. Then number 6 is color grading, color coding. Color coding. Under that, we do what we call color correction and color grading. Color coding, color correcting. What is color correction? Basically making sure that red is red, white is white, blue is blue, the skin tone is the way it is. That's color correction. You are basically ensuring that everything looks the way they are supposed to what? Look. Because after that, you're now going to what? Grading. Because grade is basically, you are setting the tone. And that means you have talked to your production design and your costume department. Production design, you have the art direction, you have costume, you have makeup. It's not that you are, you know all these things that we used to say now, it doesn't look cinematic. It doesn't look cinematic. It's not by the looking that is cinematic. It's by what you design that makes it cinematic. That you shot it flat does not mean it will come out cinematic. What you only did shooting it flat is that you took away the color. That you want to add it in post-production. That's what you did. Cinematic is a combination of so many things. The mood, the look and feel, which you will have determined, the lighting, which you will have determined before you even press record on your camera. You can't come here now and just carry television-made camera and then begin to talk cinematic in it. The question is, the production itself, is it made for cinema? That's where the word cinematic came. There's television production and there's what? Cinema production. So don't convince the two. Don't merge them together. They're not the same thing. Your church cannot be doing cinema production except they have money. Then we will not finish. You now carry lots. Somebody's lookup table and dump it on your image and say, cinematic. As in, a lie, just deceive yourself. That's why everything started looking teal and orange, teal and orange, teal and orange. Because everybody started dumping teal and orange on their footage, thinking that is cinematic. You will just laugh. It's basically cinematic because it is what? For cinema. There's a difference between a film that is made for TV and a film that is going to cinema. A film that is going to cinema is basically going to cinema to do two things. To make back his money, his returns. There's television production and there's what? Cinema production. So don't convince the two. Don't merge them together. They're not the same thing. But you can basically borrow the ideology of what is being done there to now take it into your television world production. But it doesn't mean that you created it in that television made that is not already cinema. Because you didn't follow the normal route. If you look at the real videos that are graded, the skin tone still remains the way skin tone is. You can utilize various tools for different stages of video post-production. There are few typical tools that you might use in post-production stage. The first thing is what? Adobe Premiere Pro. This is the one that we use. And we dive straight into Adobe Premiere Pro. I know some of you are sleeping, some of you are tired, but it is very important to set this tone right. Because if we enter into Adobe Premiere Pro straight off, and we don't set the story right, you are going to end up being a cut and join editor. You will not be a story editor. And it is only story editor that earns the money. Story editor, they pay. Because it's the only one that can work with the professionals and you understand their language. There's Final Cut Pro. These are different softwares. Adobe is number one here. Final Cut Pro. There's Apple Logic Pro S and Adobe Audition. Audition is for music. There's DaVinci Resolve, Avid Music Composer. So, but we're in this training, we're going to be teaching on what? Premiere Pro. So in conclusion, one of the most critical aspects of the post-production is trusting others to do their task successfully. The success of your work as an editor, first, is with who? The who? Data handling. The post-production method is exceptionally what? Collaborative. And it involves a what? A large number of people. If it at all it is possible, hire people who have a what? Track record. After that, we have what we call what? Creating titles, credit, and what? Graphics. There's what we call the continuity secretary on set, right? So the continuity secretary will collect all the data, all the information of everybody. Because if there's anything a filmmaker can fight you for in this life, is their credits. Our credit is more like our CV. So the end credit is another person's job. The next thing is what? Preparing for what? Distribution. That's the last stage actually. Then dialogue, which means you are starting talking to people. Which means if you are selling to foreign audience, you will need to build a script that includes the correct time code for each word said. As a result, the dubbing artist or the person producing subtitles will know where to place your phrase. So how many of you watch film with subtitles? So we don't create the subtitles at the beginning. Most time what happens is that they first of all subtitle it in English, then they now bring linguistics, different language people together. So if you are going to go to Asia, you get somebody that understands the language of the country you are going, and then you give them the English version, they subtitle it to the what? Korea, Russia. Transcription is very, very important. Then the next thing is, if you are going to cinema, this is what cinema takes. If you be hearing DCP, that's what you take and submit to cinema. Digital cinema what? Package. That's what the DCP means. All these things you will learn them when you are talking about rendering your footage out. Because different platforms require different file submission.